Love them or loathe them, having the Kardashians endorse your product or service would most likely be good for your business, right? Well, today's guest has done exactly that, getting millions of dollars of publicity along the way. And guess how much it cost her? $50,000? $500,000? $5 million? Nope. It cost her absolutely nothing. Let's find out how she did it on episode 453 of the award-winning Small Business Big Marketing podcast.
Well, I said, welcome to a small business marketing show where successful small business owners share their souls to take your marketing straight to the lead. Now, here's your host, Mr. Timbo Reid.
And welcome back to your weekly dose of marketing reality. I'm your host, Timbo Reid. You, infinitely more importantly, are a motivated business owner who is well and truly overdue to crank out some great marketing to build that beautiful business of yours into the empire it deserves to be. And that's exactly what we do around here. But if you want a little bit more, you can join our free Facebook group to discuss the learnings from each episode with myself and other motivated business owners by searching for the Small Business Big Marketing Tribe on Facebook. Big episode today. Oh, yes, indeedly doodly. Ex-TV producer turned pyjama entrepreneur Sophie Lovejoy joins us to explain how she got the world's most famous TV family to wear her pyjamas. And we revisit an old TV jingle that will have you saying, thank you very much, thank you very, 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 very much. If you remember that, you're as old as I am. Plus, I've got some great news about upcoming guests. As per usual, team, there is marketing GOLD dripping from the ceiling over here at Small Business Big Marketing's HQ. So let's get stuck right in. Let's meet Adelaide-born, LA-based Sophie Lovejoy, who is the founder of the sophisticated sleepwear brand Sant and Abel. Now, as an ex-TV producer, Soph is one of those go-getting, and I mean go-getting business owners who makes things happen. Her biggest marketing claim to fame is she arranged to have every single Kardashian wear her pajamas multiple times on their hit TV show, on their socials, apps, and blogs. And the exposure Sophie got is worth millions. And guess what? She didn't pay a cent. So if you don't like the Kardashians, that's okay. This is an episode in which you will learn how to get your product or service on the Kardashians, but it's about how to get serious celebrity endorsement, really, for your beautiful product or your beautiful service. So open your mind as you listen and don't be sitting there going, I don't want the Kardashians involved in my product. It's a nonsense show. Whatever. Put that aside. Now, as a naughty young schoolgirl, one of the things that Sophie did was teach her friends rude songs in the playground. So what better place to start than to ask Sophie which was her favourite little ditty?
Oh my goodness. Well, it's actually, this is amazing that you brought this up. Very timely, in fact, because my very first day in year 2, I got on top of the school fort with a good friend of mine, and we had the entire prep school watching us, and we decided to do a very rude rendition of We Will Rock You, taught by our older brothers. So obviously when Bohemian Rhapsody came out in November last year, we were instant fans of it, having done our own performance when we were 7 years old.
Dare I ask, and, I can put any rating on this show I like, so, we're free here, Soph. Dare I ask for a couple of lines from your version of We Will Rock You?
We started off going boom, boom, shh, boom, boom, shh, and then went, buddy, you're a man, you're a big fat man, and went through it and then said, sing it. And we both started singing, we will rock you, stick it right up you. Oh,
no, I knew that would happen. I'm sorry, iTunes. Hey, now let's talk about much less serious stuff, Miss Lovejoy. You were a TV producer, right, before you got into this whole pyjama business?
Absolutely, I was. And I was actually, I I did a stint working for 2020, which is part of the American broadcast, over in New York. And it was the most fantastic job, working with the likes of Barbara Walters and Diane Sawyer.
Wow.
And it kept me on my toes, and it was very, very exciting. But when the global financial crisis happened, Disney, who owns ABC, they got rid of all foreigners unless they were at an executive level. So I had to come back to Australia. And I worked in television back there. I had a number of production jobs and was working for Channel 9, but I started to get itchy feet.
Uh-huh. And then comes the small business idea. Before we talk about that, in fact, my next interview is with a fellow who just last week organised Elton John's Oscar after party. And we're going to be talking about managing difficult clients. I imagine someone like Barbara Walters, and you've worked with the Kardashians now, or at least their showrunner and producer. What's your view on working with difficult clients in your business?
It was funny because Barbara is obviously regarded as a female pioneer in journalism, really. And I think by the time I was there in 2006, 2007, I actually didn't find her as inspiring as I would have hoped.
Right.
I sort of found her questions in interviews quite shallow and basic.
Geez, you're putting the pressure on me now. How am I going?
Well, the fact that you launched with bringing up a rude song that I sang in primary school, that is incredible research.
There you go. There you go. I'm winning so far.
You will trump Barbara Walters.
I didn't think that was possible, but I feel like I've ticked a box. Can we finish now?
Absolutely.
Hey, now listen. So you get itchy feet. You've done your TV producer thing. You've lived the high life in New York. The itchy feet, is that about coming back home to Adelaide, or is that about starting your own business? What's that about?
I was actually working for Channel 9 in Sydney, and as much as I loved it, I wasn't getting the mental stimulation. And it was around 2010, and, not the mental stimulation that I was getting at 2020, for example, where we could really sink our teeth into these big investigations. Yep. And I just wasn't getting that. And so I was also very fascinated by the evolution of the e-commerce industry. And my mum back in Adelaide has a big homeware store, Outdoors on Parade, which she's had for almost 40 years now. And so I was back one weekend and I said to her, I'm getting itchy feet and I want to do something on the side. I want to make something that I can sell online. And we just started brainstorming ideas, and she said, well, we sell men's boxer shorts. It's kind of a small item in the whole scheme of her store. And she said they've been bought out by bigger brands. The designs are no longer as good. And I said, right, well, on my production break, I'll head over to Bali because my brother had just moved over there to set up a restaurant. And I said, I know what you want. I'll go and get it made. And I thought that's an easy, lightweight item to be able to sell online with limited returns and, because it's got such a flexible fit. And that's how it started, but that's certainly not how it ended up launching.
Hold that thought then. I'm interested to know how it went. You just went through that so simply. This is what you just said, Soph. So I was back in Adelaide from a break in LA or wherever you were, and Mum needed some boxes, and my brother was in Bali, and I said, Mum, I can make those boxes in Bali. So I went over to Bali and I had them made. Are you one of those chicks who just gets stuff done? Yes, I am. I just... If I put my mind to it, I'm like, well, there's no mucking around. Let's just do it. I kind of throw myself into the deep end and then work out once I'm in there how to do it. Nice.
And I certainly do think about things before I approach a situation. But I was like, yeah, I've got this. I can work it out and I'll enjoy the challenge of working it out. And that's sort of how I approach my entire business philosophy.
Okay.
The whole way along. Because obviously, coming from a TV producing background, I didn't have a clue about manufacturing. So I ended up spending. I was going to go to Bali on my production break. What I actually did was I spent the entire summer in the Double Bay Library researching not just boxer shorts, but the sleepwear industry in Australia, the US and the UK. And what I found was that there was a gap in the market for an attainable luxury collection of pyjamas for the whole family. There were plenty of pyjamas for women, very few for men, and, a selection for kids. But no brand was really... Peter Alexander was obviously there, but I wanted to do it a couple of notches above him. And so... Then we resumed production, and I took 3 weeks off in March in 2011, and I went to Bali, and that's when I threw myself into the deep end well and truly, and had to find my own manufacturers. I went off to a street in Bali called Sulawesi in Denpasar, and it's very famous for its fabrics. And there I was, just walking up and down this street, bargaining with all of these fabric sellers and saying, now, is this 100% cotton? And they'd say, yes, yes. So I'd take a swatch and I'd burn it, and sure enough, it was polyester. And, I guess learning the ropes and learning that I was going to have the wool pulled over my eyes very quickly, because they could tell that I was a novice. And... I had to become street smart very, very quickly.
Did you, at this point, have some financial backing? Did you have a bit of a runway? Hate that word, bit of a wanky word, but you know what I mean. Did you have some space to kind of bring this to life without having to worry about where your next dollar was coming from?
A little bit, because, I was still working at Channel 9 almost up until I moved to Los Angeles. So I had that part. When I was 13, I got a job at McDonald's because I wanted to buy Telstra shares. And so then I did build up a bit of a share portfolio, which over the time of running this business, I have sold. But it has just been the most invaluable thing to have on my side when I've needed a few extra dollars here and there.
So you've found your fabric, you've got your first design collection, you've had it manufactured in Bali, and what have you done? Gone and retailed it in Mum's Outdoors on Parade store?
That's correct. So I was only ever going to launch it online and on my website, and also on my, at Mum's store. And I ended up after, speaking of marketing, I basically took photos of my friends wearing them. This is, the early days of Facebook. I'd tag my friends, and the next thing, it would appear in all of the news feeds and so on. And then I had 18 stores wanting to carry it within 3 months of launching.
Because they saw you on Facebook?
Because they saw it on Facebook, but not specifically through me. It was because I got so many of my friends involved as my models. And so someone saw it from somewhere, and then they had a store, or they knew of someone who had a store who could carry this product. And it snowballed like crazy beyond what I had ever anticipated. And so then I found myself going off to the Willoughby post office at lunchtime when I was working at Channel 9 out at TCN, and I was sending off orders, and then I was coming home and working on these orders for retail stores, and this was in the lead up to Christmas, so obviously it was going to be a really busy period. And that was never part of what I had anticipated. I just wanted a side business while I worked at Channel 9, or while I worked in television, hoping to one day get back to, say, New York to work for 2020.
Yes. So where was the tipping point, Soph, where you've gone, well, I'm going to have to make a hard decision here and either go...
That was in 2012, and it just got to the point where I had 2 full-time jobs.
Yes.
And I just thought, I can't do this. I have got containers piled up in my bedroom, in my living room, which, in a flat that I shared with 2 other friends. It's like, my God, this just isn't really, this life isn't sustainable.
How were you mentally at this stage? Were you excited? Were you on the verge of a breakdown? Where were you feeling?
No, I was so excited, and to this day, I still wake up pretty much every day excited about what's about to happen.
You're a glass half full kind of chick, though. That's for sure. I can tell.
It's, obviously I have challenging days, but I still get excited because there's going to be something new that happens every day. And, that's the whole reason why I started it, because I wasn't being challenged in my other job.
Tell me about your most challenging day.
Oh, my most challenging day, it's probably dealing with the manufacturers. Because there's always going to be a bit of a breakdown in communication. And I started out manufacturing in Bali, number one, because my brother lived there, so it was great to have him on the ground. And also they have smaller quantities, smaller minimums to start out with. And now I do a lot in China, a little bit in Bali, and a little bit in LA. But there's always going to be a breakdown in communication. Things will come back that you don't quite, there'll be things missing or things where they just haven't followed the instructions.
That pink flamingo set came back luminous green, and it was like, it's not going to work.
Oh my goodness, yeah. I mean, there are times when I remember I had a print that I sent out. This was in Bali, and I'd had strike-offs printed. So that's, the fabric that you send them, the Pantone colours along with your print, along with the artwork. They do a strike-off on a swatch of fabric. And so that was all good to go. And then I gave them the green light, and then they printed it for the bulk, and it was red. And I mean, I ended up selling it, but there were certainly arguments and, for sure, on that side of it, it does become stressful.
Interested to know, when you made the decision, it sounds like both businesses were rocking. You're nailing your work at Channel 9. Sant and Abel is taking off. Did you find, though, that when you left Channel 9, Sant and Abel went to a whole nother level because you were 100% focused on it?
Yes, it did, but it was around that time because I ended up freelancing for Channel 9, so that a bit of money was coming in still. But it also gave me the flexibility to keep going back to Bali. It's obviously so close to Australia, so I was able to go back and forth quite often and keep an eye on things. And it was at that point I thought, well, I'm technically running this business remotely every time I go to Bali. Surely I can do it from LA. And so then that was my next thing. I was like, well, I don't want to get too complacent here. I actually do want to be at the forefront of entrepreneurship in America on the West Coast. So it really wasn't too long. It was 2013, so 2 years after I launched it in Australia, that I packed up and moved everything over to Los Angeles. And by that point, I had a well-established warehouse in Australia, which was connected through EDI to my website. So any orders that would come through, and obviously it's still like this to this day, but any orders that would come through would just go straight through to the warehouse, so that when I left Australia, everything was as automated as it possibly could be.
So if there wasn't a bloke in LA that you were kind of racing over to be with, was there? It was purely a business decision?
No, I went solo, except that there were so many friends who all moved at the same time, predominantly from Melbourne.
So just let me understand that. You've already got an American connection. You were comfortable being over there. The business is booming back in Australia, but you felt the need to go to LA because why? It's the heart of entrepreneurship in America. So what?
I did feel, and possibly this was from my time, I guess my exposure to the American market when I lived in New York. I just felt like I was competing with, say, 24 million versus 350 million. I'd say probably 90% of my expenses are in US dollars. So I moved over there for several reasons. So one, to go into a bigger market, to be selling and receiving US dollars, and obviously to be in this really exciting environment where there are just so many startups. And I wanted to be able to be right in the mix of it all, or in the thick of it all, and to then apply that back to the Australian company as much as the US company.
Brave decision, or was it?
I know, and I can't even tell you, the first couple of years were so hard.
In what way were they hard, Soph?
So there were times, I've got to say, Americans are so enthusiastic about businesses and ideas, and they put so much enthusiasm and energy behind them. And I moved to LA and I'd say, I've got this pajama company, and they're like, fantastic, that is amazing. And I'd meet with buyers initially, or I'd talk to them on the phone, and they'd say, oh, I love it. Come and meet me in my showroom. And and a lot of the fashion is in, a lot of the businesses are based in downtown LA, and to get down there, that's sort of the real fashion hub. To get down there often can take over an hour if you're stuck in peak hour traffic. So I was unrelenting, and I would set up, I just kept calling and calling for meetings with either showrooms or buyers. I can't even tell you how many times those meetings were cancelled as I pulled up in the parking lot, or I'd walk in and a junior buyer would say to me, oh, no, so-and-so has left for the day. Sorry, she can't meet with you. Here are your samples.
What's that about? Is that an American thing? Do they not stick to their appointments?
It's funny because I would talk to my Australian friends over there who they're all over there trying to carve out some sort of very exciting career in their own right. And we all have similar stories to this. And I do think that, and it's something that I really love about Australia and Australians, is that it's a lot more black and white.
Yes.
You're going to know pretty quickly where you stand. Whereas we call it the slow no in America, where you kind of get told yes so many times and then eventually they say no. But, another thing which I have come to realise, and I think this is applicable all over the world in any business, but certainly in somewhere like LA, is that you have to earn your stripes. And I was a new kid on the block with huge ambitions, and, you kind of need to develop a thick skin, and I think it's all part of it. And after, say, 12 or 24 months, a lot of people pack up and go home because they find that it's too hard. And there's absolutely no way that I ever would.
Soph, you had the Beverly Hills breakthrough, as I'm going to call it. You became a frequent visitor to the Beverly Hills Hotel. What was that all about?
So it's funny, when I moved to LA, one of my strategies was to break into the hotel and resort industry over there, because I discovered that very few of them were selling pajamas. And I thought, that to me, that's a no-brainer, to sell beautiful pajamas at these beautiful properties. And surely a lot of them have got the budget to do so. And I made the Beverly Hills Hotel one of my top priorities. And actually, this is another example of just calling and hitting a brick wall. Then one day I was at an event in Sonoma up near the Napa Valley. And I ended up I was at a dinner, and there were a lot of people from the hotel and resort industry. And I happened to be sitting next to the spa director of the Beverly Hills Hotel.
Oh, hello.
At this welcome dinner. I mean, talk about timing. It was quite amazing. And she said to me, I actually, back in the office, I sit next to James, the retail director at the time.
So if just at this point, are you keeping your cool, or are you just completely exploding, just trying to, everything's okay?
I was very enthusiastic, but I was still keeping my cool a little bit. Yes. Because there were also other people, at this event who who I also wanted to speak to. And I always do have the philosophy of trying to keep as many eggs in as many baskets as possible.
Yes.
Because you just kind of, one may drop off and you want to start to pursue another. So I certainly was very excited, but I did try and keep my cool a little bit.
Yep.
But she said, I'll talk to James when I get back. A couple of months passed and I sent her a few follow-up emails. Then the next thing, out of the blue, I get an email from James saying, I'd love for you to come in and show your collection. Can you come in tomorrow morning?
Yes.
And I literally dropped everything and said, absolutely. So he picked up pieces from the core line and I said to him, it would be really great to do a customised collection in the banana leaf print, in the Martinique print, which lines the corridors of the hotel. And he said that would be great, but I'm actually moving on. He was moved on to the food and beverage department.
How often does that happen? You find a great contact and start to do business and then they move on. That is so frustrating.
Oh, it is so frustrating. And I am starting to find this with the department stores as well.
Right.
And there's a lot of movement within the company. But I guess at least you've still got that contact, particularly if they stay within the company. They're surely going to know a number of other people there. And this new girl came in who actually took over both the spa and the retail store, and she was all for this idea. And then she got a bunch of her other vendors on board to do the same thing and to make products in the Martinique print.
Wow. So you've all of a sudden, you found your way into the Beverly Hills Hotel. Now you're being stocked with some of your product. Plus, you've got a dedicated bespoke design of their trademarked print. Mm-hmm. That must have gone nuts.
It was pretty crazy. We had a launch party in the cabana down by the pool. It was a brunch, and we had a number of people, say from the Hollywood Reporter and Vogue and social media influencers. And we dressed them all up in the pyjamas. The photos were unbelievable. The press that came out from it was unbelievable. But I think the real tipping point with this whole collaboration was what happened with the Kardashians.
So that is the next step, is it? Is that how... did they approach you, or did you set some kind of wish list to say, who would I love to now wear this Martinique print on the global stage?
The PR company that I was working, or that did all of the work for me, they said, if you were to offer this as an exclusive, who would get it? And I said the Kardashians, because I already knew the editor, Jen, the editor of their apps. And I think their apps have now closed down because they're all kind of moving into different directions with their businesses. But at the time, their apps were quite a big thing. And Jen was already a big fan of the pyjamas, and she had them for herself and her kids. And I said the Kardashians would be number one. And I didn't even really watch the show. I didn't even know all of their names, embarrassingly, at the time. But I said, I want them to have it. And they basically said to me, you're dreaming. And I said, no, go to Jen and offer it to her as an exclusive and see what she says. And so the next thing, I was walking along with a friend and I get this email saying, Jen has pitched it to the girls and Courtney loves the idea and she would love to run it as an exclusive on her app. And she did.
What does that mean? She wants to run it as an exclusive on her app. What does that mean? What does it look like?
So I guess to be the very first person to cover the whole collection and the story behind it and so on, and, with photos of her wearing them and at the hotel, and, to be the first one to do it. I guess certainly the first blog to do it. And
so Courtney puts her hand up, says she wants to cover it. What do you do then? You get this phone call. You clearly then dropped everything again. You're dropping things often, Soph. all for good reason.
Sure, yeah, I have to be on my toes. Everything is fairly spontaneous.
I imagine that then requires some instant action on your behalf, because it's not like she wants to cover it in 4 weeks' time. It's probably 4 hours' time, is it, or something ridiculous?
Well, fortunately, from that perspective, initially they only wanted photos, so that part was okay. And she ended up putting together this full story and only put a photo of herself and her kids sitting in the Polo Lounge, but they weren't wearing the collection, but they were basically just saying, we're fans of this collaboration. Mm-hmm. We grew up going to this hotel, and then they gave this full spiel about, or she gave a full spiel about Sant and Abel being from Sydney and moving to LA. I mean, it was amazing. But then that came out on a Wednesday. Then 2 days later, I get an email from the senior producer of Keeping Up with the Kardashians saying, we saw Kourtney's blog and we would like these particular pieces sent over to us in the next hour. And the senior producer said, we're filming in Calabasas this afternoon. And I was like, so they wanted the short sleeve shirt and boxer short set. I didn't even have those samples on me. I said, all I've got are the night shirts and the eye masks. And he said, done. We're sending a runner over to your place. And literally within about 45 minutes, there was a runner knocking on my door with a full headset, walkie-talkie, everything.
Classic.
And it was just this quick exchange of the products. And then she left. And what happened that afternoon was absolutely crazy. I actually went out for dinner and my phone was blowing up. I had so many friends saying, oh, my God, have a look at this, screenshot after screenshot. And they were all posting photos of themselves in the nightshirts, having pillow fights and doing these crazy Snapchats in front of their mirrors. And I mean, I'm hopeless with Snapchat, and so I couldn't even keep up with any of this. I was in complete shock that all of this had happened from about 11 a.m. that morning, and then it literally blew up. But then 6 weeks later, the episode went to air, and I thought, oh, well, it's only going to be just 30 seconds or something. It was about a 7-minute segment.
Of the Kardashians wearing your product on the highest rating reality TV show in the world. I don't know. Could you put a dollar value to that?
I don't even know. All I know is that people do spend over $1 million to get their products on their TV shows. So I literally didn't have to really pay a cent except for the cost of those samples. It was jaw-dropping, really. I could not believe it.
What then happened to sales? Did your website crash? Did you sell out of everything? What happened?
Now, this was, certainly every collaboration that I do, it's always a learning experience, but the Beverly Hills Hotel had it exclusively. So I couldn't sell it on my website. And my God, I wish I had have negotiated that, more thoroughly at the time. But I think I was just so excited and felt so fortunate to be in there that I didn't want to push it. And I think now if I had my time again doing something, well, I mean, I have, and I certainly have negotiated with other partnerships. But to do this exact one all over again, if I could turn back time, I would have renegotiated that, because unfortunately they did not have. They kind of ran it on more of a manual sales system and a manual stock take, and the nightshirts sold out almost immediately, but they weren't really keeping track of sales the way that I would have liked.
So if I imagine, though, that there would have been a run-on effect back to your website where people are now, the brand is now, front and centre in terms of PJs.
The traffic that I ended up getting back to my website was unbelievable, and I still have that because it was a limited edition collection. We still get inundated pretty much every single week from people asking for that specific collection.
What's the learning for the small business owner listening here? Help me pull out the learning, Soph, because you've gone hard. It takes what do they say? 10 years to be an overnight success. So this didn't just happen. You put a lot of effort into getting there, but getting your product in the hands of major influencers. What's your big tip there?
Oh gosh, I feel like I constantly learning about the way that I should approach this. I mean, it really took me I arrived in 2013. It wasn't until 2016 that I got this partnership. So that was 3 years of really, really pushing it. But then once I got it, I was like, I just had this gut feeling that it was going to be a great success. And so, like I was saying before, when my PR company said, who do you want to give this to as an exclusive? Absolutely aim for the top, because the worst that they're ever going to say is no. And, I know that things are constantly evolving with social media influencers and their demands and, that they want X $1,000 for a post. I have never paid for a single post, ever. And I don't intend to, not at this point. I've given out products, but I will never pay. I just won't pay for a post.
Do you think the world's moved on from that? I mean, that was a bit of a moment in time where, social influencers were getting paid good money for posts. Are you guys now getting a bit smarter about that?
Well, see, after the Beverly Hills Hotel collab, we were then approached by Chiara Ferragni. Are you familiar with her from Milan?
Nope.
She's got the blonde salad. She's got, the latest count, about 20 million followers. She used to stay at the Beverly Hills Hotel often, and her team contacted me about doing a collaboration for her website, which we did, and that was also a huge success. But I started to have a number of people under my belt, like the Kardashians and Chiara and a few others. And so then every time I got contacted about, about sending product, then these influencers would then say, well, here's my media kit. It's going to be $10,000 for one post. And I'd sort of laugh it off. I mean, that's not in my marketing budget whatsoever. I'm still a small company, and there's no guaranteed ROI with these things. So I would always turn around and I said, look, we're very happy to give you product to wear, so long as you tag us and you do this and that. But, we've had the likes of the Kardashians and Chiara doing it for free. And, they're much, much, much bigger influencers.
What a great thing to be able to say.
Oh,
thanks for the opportunity. But, look, we've had the Kardashians wear our stuff and we're doing okay.
So, if you want to be part of it, absolutely, we'll send you some pyjamas, but we're just not going to pay for the post.
Did you ever meet any of the Kardashians?
No, I never have, but I talk to Kourtney's manager quite often.
Did you send them something? What do you send the Kardashians by way of thank you? In fact, coming in to the studio today, I just heard on the news Kylie Jenner is the youngest billionaire ever. She's 21 and she is now a billionaire.
It blows my mind. Good on her.
Did you send a thank you card or a bunch of flowers?
Yes, I did. But now every Christmas I send them some pajamas. I did a partnership with a big Los Angeles artist last year, which launched in October. And Kourtney's the one who seems to really support Sant and Abel in a big way. So I sent her a big package for her family. And she put it on her app again as her favourite pics for Christmas.
Beautiful.
And then there are posts that pop up every now and then of her kids wearing the Christmas sets.
That's what we want. Hey, a couple of quick questions before we wrap up, Soph. I meant to ask you the name Sant and Abel.
Do you know, it means absolutely nothing. I wanted a name that would become entirely synonymous with my pajamas. I was initially going to call it Sable and Ant, named after the sable antelope in Africa, the most handsome antelope in Africa. And bizarrely, my cousin, who's an IP lawyer, did all of the work, and he said, in the apparel category, there are 2 sables and there's even a sable and argent.
Righto.
You can't use it. I had all of these tags and labels and things made up that said S&A. I was like, well, and that's particularly when every single cent was precious to me.
Yes.
And I said, well, what am I meant to do? But as he was talking, he kept saying Sant and Abel by accident. This is
that's it.
muddling the words up.
It works.
And it stuck.
It means nothing, but it works. Tell me, are you likely to open a bricks and mortar store? Is it always going to be an online business and a wholesaling business?
That is a very good question. It's something that I think about often, but I just have to have the right approach. I love the model that businesses like Warby Parker and Bonobos have, where they just have they just have small stores,
flagship
but they have
store.
one item of everything, and then they get everything out to you within 2 days.
Interesting.
I think that's very clever. I think about it. It's not out of the question, but I think there are other things that I want to do before I'd consider that.
And so technology in PJs, are we likely to see anything? Sleep monitors, essential oils releasing throughout the night. What do we got?
It's amazing. I know that Under Armour have been experimenting with it, and it would be great to incorporate something like the heart rate and, I guess everything that the Fitbit already does.
I've got an idea for you, Soph. I was talking to my acupuncturist only this week. Now, I tend to sleep on my front, which is not good. You're not meant to sleep on your front. Don't know whether you knew that, but
I do that a bit myself.
Right, it's a no-no. And he is suggesting via his chiropractor, he got this idea from, you sew soft animals onto the front of your pajamas.
Ooh.
And it stops you from sleeping on your front. You're forced to sleep on your side or your back. So you can have that one for free.
Oh, thank you,
yes.
Tim. Thank you very much. I'll be sure to attribute you when it
If you
flies
could call
off
them
the
the Timbos, I'd really appreciate that. And as long as they're...
it's got such a good ring to it.
Thank you. Sort of pink and fluffy I'm looking for. That's the style I'm sort of feeling. Hey, Soph, great story. Ripper story.
Thank you so much. I've loved this.
I know you thought, where can you go? You've been on the Kardashians. Well, you're on the Small Business Big Marketing Show. So love your work. If people want to buy some Sant and Abel, they can, whether they're in America or Australia. Sant and Abel, ABEL.com is where to go. Sophie Lovejoy, love your work.
Thanks, Timbo.
Well, there you go. Founder of fancy PJ brand Sant and Abel. And you'll find links and pics of Sophie's Kardashian win in the show notes over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com/453. Hey, by the way, Sophie's kindly donated a whole lot of vouchers for me to give away to Monster Prize Draw winners. More on that shortly. And be sure to hang around after my top 3 attention grabbers as we revisit a great old jingle from 1983. Now, here's what grabbed my attention from that chat with Sophie. Attention grabber number 1. I love Soph's quote about jump in the deep end, then work it out. We've talked about this before. You know I'm not much of a planning kind of guy. I just kind of go for it, work it out afterwards. Seems to work. But it has worked for Sophie. It worked for so many of my past guests. And I have to say that, taking the risk, jumping and then building the parachute on the way down seems to be a good strategy for some. Attention grabber number 2. I love how Sophie chose to move to LA to access a bigger market, a more exciting business environment, and earn some US dollars. A few greenbacks along the way. I love that. It kind of raises the question, where could you move your business to do those kinds of things? Or are you happy where you are? Attention grabber number 3. I love Sophie's enthusiasm towards networking, starting with her being a regular at the Beverly Hills Hilton. probably a nice place to be a regular, but she really is enthusiastic about networking, about connecting with the right people, and she seems to do it very well. If you are a bit of a networker but it's not working for you, maybe, make a slight pivot as to how you approach it. Less push, more pull, less tell, more tell, I should say, less sell, all that kind of stuff. But Soph is a great networker. Well, that's what grabbed my attention. Whatever grabbed yours, be sure to block out some time and implement it. Righto, team. We haven't had a jingle of the week for a while, and I do like this segment. It's one of those segments that's sort of catchy, like a good jingle should be. So let's hop back into the advertising time machine and venture back to 1983, when TV advertising campaigns ran into the millions of dollars and every second brand had a catchy jingle to sell its wares. This one's for Rose's Chocolates, and I got to apologise right up front, as it will most likely stay in your head for at least a week. It's been in my head for the entire weekend since I found it last Friday, which was 3 days ago. Unless you have some insanely effective meditation practice that enables you to avoid that kind of thing happening, I think it will kind of stay in your head. I apologise again. All right, here's the jingle.
Thank you very much for the care, we're grateful.
Thank you very much, thank you very, very, very much.
Thank you very much for being so helpful.
Thank you very much, very much.
Say thank you with Cadbury Rose's Chocolates, whatever the occasion or for any reason at all. Lots of delicious centres covered in smooth Cadbury chocolate.
Thank you very much for doing the dishes.
Thank you very much, thank you very, very, very much.
Thank you very much just for being my missus.
Thank you very, 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 very much.
See, I told you. Thank you very, 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 very much. That's going to be in your head for a very long time to come. That brings us to the end of episode 453. A reminder, you'll find plenty more where this came from, and my entire archive lives over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com. Next episode, we catch up with customer experience expert Amanda Stevens for a far-reaching chat on the state of small business marketing in the world. If you're getting value from listening, please let other business owners know about this podcast, which is presented by me, Timbo Reid. Until next time, thanks for tuning in. Now get out there and take action.